I have not seen any white smoke there, but we have a deal. There has been a breakthrough in the negotiations on future EU-UK relations. The deal will most probably go into effect on January 1st. Great Britain and the European Union have reached a trade agreement. According to EU Commission President Ursula von der Leyen and Great Britain's Prime Minister Boris Johnson, the agreement was reached, which should avoid a severe economic break from January 1st. The trade agreement is intended to regulate economic relations between the island and the continent from January 2021. The most important goal was to avoid tariffs and ensure the smoothest possible trade. The contract also includes fishing and cooperation on energy, transport, justice, police, and many other topics. The British government has confirmed the agreement with the EU on a Brexit trade pact. The deal is there, announced Downing Street on Thursday afternoon. Previously, EU circles have already confirmed the agreement to the German press agency after months of negotiations. And right in the minute before I'm filming this, Boris Johnson, Ursula von der Leyen and Michel Barnier were giving press conferences about this too. A statement from the Prime Minister's office said the deal would deliver everything promised to the UK public during the 2016 referendum and last year's elections. Well, I'm quite curious what the guys of the Brexiteer channels will say about this. I got some taste of that in the morning, so I'm really looking forward to see what's going to happen there. They were already talking about betrayal. But it's Christmas, so let's stay nice. We have regained control of money, borders, trade and fishing waters. The deal is fantastic news for families and businesses across the UK government said. Boris Johnson in his press conference talked about they got a Canada-style deal. Well, it's not, but I will talk about those details when the deal is published, and then we go through it in a little bit more detail. And because he said that, I will talk about the differences between Canada and UK. They feel satisfaction and relief, said EU Commission Chief Ursula von der Leyen. With the agreement, a hard economic break at the turn of the year seems to have been averted. And then she said in German that it is not clearing all problems that Brexit brings. Nobody ever expected that any deal could do that, because what was there was the best deal ever that could not be replaced by another one. But many problems have been solved with the deal, but not all of them. Because of that, the EU will have 5 billion euros in place for companies and institutions to help solving some of the remaining problems. And then she said, my message to all Europeans is, let's leave Brexit behind. Our future is made in Europe. The trade agreement is intended to regulate economic relations between the island and the continent from January on, I said. The EU Parliament will examine the negotiated agreement in detail before approving it in the new year. The most important point is to avoid tariffs and to ensure that trade is as smooth as possible. The contract also includes fishing and cooperation on energy, transport, justice and so on, as I said, but that is an important part. It was never only about trade. Justice, police and many other topics, and even energy, were always very important there. And Great Britain left the EU at the end of January and is only a member of the EU internal market and the customs union until next Thursday. And then they are a third country. And with that, there comes the economic break. Without an agreement, customs duties and more complex controls would be necessary. Business representatives on both sides warned of upheavals and loss of tens of thousands of jobs. The negotiations should actually have been concluded in October, but dragged on and on. Several times they were on the verge of failure. Because of the short time, an agreement on the EU side can no longer be ratified in time. It will have to be applied provisionally if the 27 EU states agree, and with Ursula von der Leyen and Michel Barnier given this press conference, I'm quite sure they already have been told they can do that. On the British side, the government has announced that it will refer the matter to Parliament. The agreement promises Great Britain exports to the EU internal market without tariffs and without quotas, that means quantity restrictions. For this, however, the EU demands fair competitive conditions. the so-called level playing field. What is meant are the same environment, social and subsidy standards. And because of the proximity, because of the extent of the trade, there's another point where it can't be Canada. The question remained a highly complex point of contention until the very end. A way was sought to ensure fair competition also for the future and otherwise counteract it. It was not until Wednesday afternoon that it was finally said that all points regarding the level playing field had been clarified. Then there was one last sticking point that had been heatedly debated for weeks: EU fishermen's access to British waters. The clarification of the last details dragged on for many hours until Thursday noon. Finally, a compromise was found here too. From negotiating circles, it was recently said that the fundamental principles had already been agreed on with fish. According to this, EU fishermen in British waters should continue to have access to 2/3 of their previous fish quantities in the next few years. Other sources said it was 75%. These and other figures have not been officially confirmed. From circles, it was said that the inconsistencies that arisen when examining details were not too few, let's say that way. Recently, NTV had learned that the negotiators fish species for fish species and were working their way forward through all the species in the negotiations. And so a press briefing by Prime Minister Boris Johnson, which had already been announced for the early morning, was postponed hour by hour. In the afternoon, the EU Council announced that the EU ambassadors would no longer hold conferences today. The representatives of the EU states were asked to be ready over the holidays. The worsening corona pandemic in Great Britain had recently built up further pressure. After a mutated variant of the coronavirus was discovered, France temporarily closed its borders to traffic from the UK. Therefore, thousands of trucks jammed on the British side. From the point of view of critics, a foretaste of the situation in a no-deal Brexit. Now, we'll never know, obviously. The British voters had voted in 2016 with a narrow majority to leave the EU. Prime Minister Boris Johnson won the parliamentary elections in 2019 and, among other things, with the announcement that Brexit will actually be carried out. He repeatedly mentioned regaining sovereignty and control over one's own border and laws as the central point. In an initial reaction, Chancellor Angela Merkel said that she expected Germany to be able to decide quickly on its possible approval of the agreement. Federal Foreign Minister Heiko Maas announced, "We will of course now take a close look at the draft in the EU member states." Because all 27 EU member states and later also the European Parliament must agree. As President of the Council, Germany wants to do everything possible so that the agreement can come into force provisionally on January 1st. Ireland's Prime Minister Micheál Martin welcomes the deal. The agreement is a good compromise and a balanced result. The agreement is the least bad version of Brexit that is possible. And this sentence, I think, is really fitting to the whole situation. Irish Foreign Minister Simon Coveney also expressed satisfaction. The agreement protects Ireland as well as one could have hoped, he said. The British chief negotiator David Frost thanked everyone who had brought about the deal via Twitter. In Great Britain, a spokesman for the opposition Labour Party welcomed the conclusion of an agreement as in the national interest, which had long been insisted on. And even if you'll never see this, I personally also want to thank Michel Barnier. He did for years what the 27 member states asked him to do and did a very good job. I never would have had the amount of patience he has shown, and I'm really surprised that he could do it. But he did a great job to fight for the interests of us EU citizens. And now it's really time to celebrate Christmas. I'm glad I could end the day before I get celebrating with these good news. I once again say Merry Christmas, Frohe Weihnachten. Of course you'll see videos from me during Christmas days, but they'll be batch produced. I won't film tomorrow or the day after tomorrow if nothing really terrible happens like with this deal. All the videos are ready, so you'll always have something to see in the next 2 days. But I'm going to go celebrate now. Once again, Merry Christmas, Frohe Weihnachten. Bis gleich.